Hello and welcome back to the Q&A evening 2015 for the CISO elections. We are back this time round for VP Education.
We certainly are. Would our candidates like to come to the stage? By candidates, I mean candidate.
Can we have a round of applause for Shruti, please?
How are you doing, Shruti?
I'm alright.
Shruti, welcome to the scary sofa.
It's a bit lonely.
It is very lonely.
You could recline on that.
I'd have a nap, you know.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I would say lie down, but we are going to be joining you with someone else. It wouldn't be the sofa of grill without 2 pieces of bread in the toaster. So let's get Sophia in this year's VP Education to come and join in with the debate. Sophia, welcome.
Hiya.
Obviously, you're going to be pitching in when you feel like you need to, if there's a burning question or anything like that. But Shruti, it's your turn this time. Amelia.
So, Shruti, do you want to just give us a little introduction about yourself?
Hi, I'm Shruti. I'm a third-year engineer and I've been faculty officer for 2 years. So I've got quite a bit of experience in the zone and I want to use that to make a difference.
Great.
So obviously, you're the only candidate running for this role. So we've got the first question here, which came through from Twitter, all the room. So if someone here could have asked this question. How can we make sure that Winchester students get the educational representation that they need? Because do you think it's good enough at the moment, or do you feel like it needs to change?
I think the foundations are there, but I think, like has come up a lot of time, the communication isn't there. And so I know that it's been worked on this year at Sphere, but there is still more to be done. They're still not happy. So it is quite difficult because obviously their faculty officer is based across in the Highfield Avenue area because they're part of the faculty of business and law. So it's definitely not right, but the foundation's there. So I think communication is needed, and we need to find out what they want. And part of my manifesto is tailoring the academic representation to each faculty, each academic unit, and they're definitely a part of that because then it'll improve what they've got as well as everyone else.
So if I just let anyone know at home who's missed out what this role is all about. So VP Education, the role that Shruti's running for, it's on about maximising the benefits to students that they get from their courses. They're liaising between the university on key issues brought to their attention by faculty officers and course reps. And apparently we're all here to learn, which is something that Jesters and Sobar wouldn't like to tell you with their 24/7 offers. But jokes aside, this zone is a really important zone here in SUSU, and it's maximising a student's desire to develop themselves. So, Shruti, second question that we've had from the audience. Given we're not part of the NUS, which is obviously something that we chose to opt out of, how will you ensure that Southampton is heard on a national scale?
We don't need to be part of the NUS to have a voice. There are many platforms. We've got our own media, there's national media, and it's not even just about that. We have to set an example. I mean, as a student union, we're looking at other student unions around the country. So if we show that we have got a voice, show that we're taking a stand on things and making progress, other unions will see that. We don't necessarily have to go and shout about it because other people are looking at us to be able to kind of benchmark, to copy, and every union's looking at every other union. So I think on a national scale, we don't have to be part of the NUS to have a voice.
For you, what do you think the benefits of not being in the NUS are, that you see yourself? Because obviously a lot of students are miffed that they don't get the discount card, that's one of the things, but what are the perks of not being in the NUS?
Firstly, the discount card isn't everything. There is My Uni Days and other such things. Online, you can still get your student discounts. The fact that the NUS, we're not part of the NUS, we're not paying part of the money that could go back into the students here to the NUS, to an external organisation, for them to tell us about what we need to be stocking in our shops and things, and that brings our prices down, and it means that the students can decide on a local level what they want, rather than something that suits other unions across the country won't necessarily suit our union. So it's really good for us because as students we can decide what we want.
Okay, so let's have a little bit of grilling. So one of your main points is a point that a lot of people have made before, Sophia's probably made it as well, about wanting to make more space in the library. But how are you actually going to do that? Because it's a point that's been said many different times. Is it not a case of simply getting an extension in building space rather than trying to work in the small area that we already have?
It's about using our area in a way that is actually useful for students. I mean, trying to get the university to build a bigger library is going to be so much more difficult than just reorganising history undergrad here, and they were saying, but it's a library, we need books. But I'm not saying get rid of all books, only have workspace in there. But for some subjects, books are more important than others. And so, for example, taking engineering, as an engineer myself, there are books in there from 30, 40 years ago, which aren't going to be used. The same laws of physics are still going to be the same now. It's just in a different book that is going to be used. We don't need those old books necessarily. So take them out. Have the bookshelves, which kind of seem the ones that kind of stack together. The ones with the windy things, I do not know the proper names of them, I'm sorry. But have those, because then they'll be able to compress, and then there's more space available. So it's just about using our space more wisely, because you get rid of a few stacks of books, you compress some of them, and you've then got a lot more space where you can put tables and plug sockets and space for people to actually.
But how are you going to judge what books are used or not? I, for example, took out a book from the library the other day that hadn't been taken out since 1970 or something like that. Ridiculous. There are books that perhaps people aren't taking out the library but are using in them. How are you going to make that decision? And also, by taking out a few books, how much space is that actually going to make?
Well, addressing your first point, it's an electronic system, so you judge that, but then you talk to the students. What books are they using? I mean, if it's...
So you've got to talk to every single student and say which books they're using?
No, but we've got a representation system. You use that. I as one student, have not got experience across the whole of the university, which is why we have a rep system, which is why we have people who want to come and talk to you. So so you use the electronic system, and then we talk to our reps. We see what's going to be needed. Are you part of? These books belong to necessarily an academic unit that uses reference textbooks a lot more, or is it actually in an area of the university where people don't really use loads and loads of textbooks? They need reference textbook, but it can be a modern one. It could be the core one that's needed, and we don't actually need a whole range of references to get to our final answer.
Well, Sophia, you're obviously not running for this role this year. It's just Shruti. But what have you found with regards to the library over the past year?
So personally, I'd feel that Hartley shouldn't be our only focus. We do have libraries on all of our other campuses, and we should be taking advantage of that. So we need to start looking into more about how do the students, do they want the space, do they want the resources, are there more resources we can put online so that if that's what students want to use, that can be made available to them, and actually making sure that we give the students what they need. So at the moment there, following on from the 24-hour library period, there were several surveys that went out focusing on different cohorts. So for instance, WSA, there's been a report published to say how they're going to extend the library and hopefully physically extend the library, and how they'll extend library opening hours at Winchester.
But overall, do you agree with what Shruti's saying? Are key points on this?
Not particularly, to be honest. I think it's really difficult to judge how year on year to actually have a kind of reference list of every book every student will be using. Things like dissertations, you're going to be using a different range of books each time. It's a very difficult thing to start cutting away books. I think we should be looking at different spaces across the university campus, so not all trying to use the same building. We could have each subject-specific space, like the management building, having far more study space available there. So it's study space and the resources stay in a similar place.
So Shruti, obviously, a lot of mention is about humanities students with their dissertations. Me as a science student, I feel that I haven't got the Avenue campus to rely on. I've only got this campus, and there's not a lot of space in the library as there is. So what do you feel about maximising the space for everyone that don't have access to Avenue?
I agree with Sophia in the sense that it is about other spaces, which is why in my manifesto I've talked about social learning space, having more areas around the university on all the campuses. But I think this is kind of evident of why we need a representation structure. Sophia as a linguist is very much more reliant on the books than me as an engineer. So yeah, we do have, as engineers and scientists, a lot of us are based on Highfield, and it's about more than space. But that is why I've addressed this point as well in other issues. But it comes back down to, does the library need to move as the world's moving forward? Because it's not all about books anymore. Books are important, but yeah, we can put it online. We can, for some subjects, take out some of them. And there's when I go to the library, I go for workspace, I don't go for books. So it's very different for each faculty, for each academic unit. So I don't think that even a bit more space is necessarily going to be a bad thing if we're looking at other areas around the university.
So obviously we're tackling the issue of when we're here at university, but what about once you're trying to apply to university or trying to get tuition fees? Obviously, this has been tweeted in, and it's a very recent topic that's just come up. from Ed Miliband. If Labour win the general election, he's stating that tuition fees will be cut to £6,000 a year. Should they be cut even further, and should education be free? What is your stance on this?
Like this came up in the debate, yes, ideally education will be free or at least accessible to all, because it is something that everyone will benefit from, the public will benefit from, because no education is wasted. But there's a bigger picture. There's a national picture, there are other budgets. If the higher education fees are cut, so the student at this point doesn't have to pay for that at this point, what's going to be cut for when they're working individuals later in life? So ideally, it would be fantastic to make education more accessible to everyone, but there is a bigger picture, and we need to consider that what else is going to be cut if tuition fees are also.
But considering that they are £9,000 at the moment, that I'm not sure on the figures, but they've been estimating that hardly anybody is actually going to be able to pay it back in full anyway. So how is that going to make a difference, cutting it down to £6,000? Do you think they're going to get more money back, or it's going to be the same?
I don't think that necessarily everyone will be able to pay that back even if it's £6,000. I mean, Giles brought this up in the debate, which was there are people on the £3,500 fees who aren't going to pay them back. So they're making cuts, they're making it seem more appealing, but is it ever going to make a difference? And that is the bigger picture. So I can't sit here now and say, yes, it will be fantastic. In an isolated issue, it'd be amazing if education was free and accessible to everyone. But as I said, there are bigger issues. There needs to be a more sustainable way to fund people through university, which isn't going to affect them later in their working life.
Sophia, do you agree with what Shruti's saying?
Yeah, to a certain extent. For me, it's rather than having kind of the price of your degree, for me it's about widening participation. So ideally, if the degree was cheaper, supposedly with that widened participation, with people from backgrounds who might have not considered university because for financial reasons, are they more likely to come to university? And at the moment, the university are rolling out several projects to make sure we do actually reach out to students who think the university education isn't an option to them. So personally, I'm more focused on actually making sure that, when we come to recruiting students, we make them feel like, university is an option, student finance is a viable option, the hardship fund and other things like the entitlement card in the past can be really utilised to come into university.
So, obviously, grilling time again.
We're grilling again.
We're grilling again. Shruti, this is obviously from your manifesto, or a point that we've seen.
Well, this one is more about you running by yourself. I mean, obviously, at the debates you had someone stand in, you've got Sophia here to argue against, but it's not really the same as having someone to run up against you. Do you think that's a disadvantage for you, and that students don't have anyone else to pick against, apart from Ron?
I think it's a shame, actually, because, as democracy, people should have a choice of whether they're going to have this person, that person, or Ron, whereas it's me and it's Ron. So I think it's a shame, and it will, I'm sure, be looked into as to why there are fewer candidates. But that doesn't mean that I'm not a good candidate either. So I've been going out, I've toned down my campaign from what I planned, but I'm still going out campaigning, showing people that I am a good candidate and that I'm a viable choice. I think disadvantage-wise, I think statistically on paper, I've got more chance of winning because that's just the numbers. But at the same time, there's people's perceptions of it. Do I really want to vote for someone? What about someone else who might not have come forward this time? Do I want someone else? So it's a very subjective thing to say whether it's a disadvantage or not. It depends on the population's opinion, really.
Okay.
So, obviously, you talk about the odds of you winning or not. If you do win, and you are successful with your campaign, let's talk about how many cards in a deck that you have compared to the university. If you really want to change something, but the university doesn't want to change it, where do you feel like you stand with those kinds of situations?
Because I'm uncontested, or in general?
Just in general.
Okay.
So you've got to the role, let's say, and you've got a point that you want to put across the university. What happens when the university flat out say no, even though it's what the students have asked for you?
That's happened to me, actually, as a faculty officer. The university flat out said no to online submission, which is one of my points. And we've achieved that, together with the reps, with the numbers. So if it's what the students want, you push it. You talk to the university in a way that they're going to appreciate. You put it in a way that they understand. No isn't the end. It's not just an answer. You can change that, and you can convince them that actually, if you make lives of the students better and their educational experience better, it's going to make their lives a lot better as well, in their work life. They're the NUS. scores are going to go up or they're going to have an easier time with the students. So no isn't the end. There are always ways around it.
Sophia, is no the end?
Absolutely not. Recently, there's always a way around it. So whether it's looking at kind of the quality code and what the university's kind of academic standards are, or looking at what other universities who maybe, I don't know, recruitment competitors, for instance, what they're putting in place might be another way to compete with the university and kind of really make a compelling argument. It really depends on the issue. Hidden course cost was like my big thing this year that I really felt passionate about. And it came to when QAA, which is the university Ofsted, arriving for me to say, you know, this isn't published. Why isn't it published? What effect does that have on students? Is it putting students in a situation where they can't fully take part in their degree in some situations and get the most out of their university life? And lo and behold, they've published as one of the recommendations that the university has to follow, the be-all and end-all, they have to do it, so it's a win.
There is hope.
There
So,
is hope, it's
Shruti,
done.
obviously, we're talking about manifesto points. What is your main point? The point that you really, if you do get the role and you come to the university with this point straight away, this is the point you want to drive down to the university, I want this to change or this to be adjusted. What is that?
You're going to argue this is a political answer. I don't have one. It isn't, my whole manifesto isn't about this one point. I've got a lot of points, and a lot of my points are valuable or particularly guided towards certain faculties. You know, there isn't one point, I don't think, that will be overarching across the whole university because each faculty is so different. So the one thing I'm going to push forward is not necessarily a specific manifesto point, but it's more of sort of a target kind of area is communication with the students to improve what they want. And that is the key thing, because we need to use this amazing representation system that we've got. We've got volunteers who want to make a difference. So talk to them, use them, and then make that difference that they want to see. It's not about one point that's going to make a difference for everyone, because the university is not exactly the same throughout, and we need to realise that. And as soon as that is realised and we start addressing things which are relevant to different people, I think then is when we're going to make real progress.
Amelia?
So I think it is time for a little bit of a roundup of your main points and why people should pick you over Ron. I know that might be hard.
A roundup of my points. I'm focusing on lots of little things that affect everyone. I've got 4 areas to target: exams and assessment, student experience, employability, and representation. And all these things together, if they're improved upon, will make your life at university and afterwards a lot better. So I want to do realistic things which will make your student experience a lot better.
Sophia, thank you very much for joining us on the Girls' Sofa. Shruti, thank you very much. Big round of applause to Shruti and Sophia, everyone.
So that was your Q&A for VP Education. We've only got 2 more left tonight. We've got VP Sports Development and after that President. So VP Sports Development will be up in just a few minutes.
Do not miss it.